I have a couple of announcements I'd like to begin with, and then other commissioners can speak up. The first that I'm interested in is, I can't remember the exact date, but there's the Friends meeting in Sonoma, and we have been invited to attend, and in the afternoon. And it occurred to me that if over 5 of us attend, we will be a quorum, and we would need to publicize the meeting, etc. So I'm interested if I can get a count of how many people at this point are planning to attend the Friends meeting in September. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we will need to agendize, and I'll need to talk to the Friends about the attachment that gets on top of their meeting. Okay. The other thing that I want to announce is that the retreat committee has come up with a date and facilitators and a location for the retreat. Our date for the planned retreat is October 3rd. It's at St. Dorothy's Rest, which is in Camp Meeker, and it's from what time?
9 till 3, although we haven't met with them.
Right, and related to that also is that we are meeting with the facilitators tomorrow for the planning, and if any members of the commission would like to come and have input in the planning, we're meeting at 10 o'clock in the boardroom at the library. And just for public notice, this retreat is being funded by a grant from a private foundation. So the expenses are not coming from the library budget. Are there any questions? Yes.
So, Tim, we're in the announcement section, correct?
Correct.
So I know you asked us if we had any announcements that we want to make. I just thought I'd make a brief one.
Okay.
So I wanted to let you all know that I just spent a lengthy period of time in France. And it was part vacation, part family. I was born in France, so I have a lot of connections to that country. But I wanted you all to know that I visited the library in Nice, France. And unfortunately, the library also shares some of our same dilemmas, and they were closed on Mondays. And they're open a little bit on Sundays, however. So I just thought I would share that with all of you, and I thought you might appreciate that, 6,500 miles away, they have the same issues, and so we're not alone in this. And it was a beautiful library, however, and very much thriving in other regards.
Great. So, okay, thank you. Any other general announcements from the commissioners before we do our commission reports and announcements? All right, it's now time for public appearances. If any members of the public would like to make a statement to the commission, now is the time for items that are not on the agenda. All right, I see none. Let's see if there are any library advisory board. We haven't heard of any, and I don't see anyone from advisory boards here. So let's move right on to number 5, commission reports. Let's start at that end.
The Catotti Runner Park Lab did not meet this month. Their next meeting is August 18th, Tuesday at 4 o'clock. One of the big events coming up in the library right now is the photography exhibit, which will open tomorrow at noon. Really wonderful show, and I encourage people to go and see it.
Oh, Cloverdale's adult reading program was really successful. I've heard a lot of comments as I walked around town. One woman told me that she picked up books she never thought she'd read, which was really good. One book club used it as their source of books for their summer reading program, so that was wonderful. With the children's summer reading program, Cindy wrapped books up so they couldn't tell what they were, and they put up a sign and said, "Are you brave enough to pick a book and check it out that you don't know what it is?" So that was kind of fun because she said she couldn't keep the wrapped books on the thing, and they were picking out the fattest and the thickest books, which of course they never do when they're walking along the shelves trying to choose. Lab has made a positive contact with the Tuesday Farmers Market, and they are reading stories to the children as the parents go around the market and pick up their produce and what have you. And finally, as a commissioner, sustainability is a topic that I've been involved with for over 20 years. In doing some research for some of the committees that I'm on, I ran across a resolution that was passed by the ALA at this June convention in San Francisco, and they emphasized their commitment to economic vitality, environmental preservation, and social equity, which are the building blocks for any sustainable community. They recognize the importance of the unique roles libraries can play in the wider community conversations about resiliency, climate change, and future sustainability. And they encourage libraries and related organizations to be proactive in their sustainability thinking. Now, Sonoma County is a national leader in sustainability. I don't know how many of you are really aware of that. And the cities within the county are aligned with these efforts. And I'm going to continue exploring the opportunities to create a plan to build partnerships with governmental entities and to integrate our shared commitments into Sonoma County community. I'm in contact with the ALA Sustainability Roundtable. I've already had one conversation with Brett on sustainability. I'm taking the subject before various committees, and now I've begun the dialogue with the Commission. There's a lot to be considered, I know, and we can be part of making our community sustainable. Libraries do have a unique place within the community, an important one that is beneficial for everyone. So now the conversation has started, and I want to thank you.
Thank you.
I have a report.
Paul?
Shouldn't have read that.
I was not able to attend the Friends meeting, but someone did.
The lab, you mean?
Yeah, the lab, I'm sorry.
I had the privilege of going to beautiful Guerneville, and they do a book sale, book and bake sale. And at their meeting, they bring cookies. The other thing they're looking at is looking at more storage, looking at more support. The librarian there said that they had borrowed the 3D printer from Santa Rosa and that she was looking to ask the Friends or the lab to support that. They meet again in September, the same time that the Santa Rosa lab meets as well. I believe it's Santa Rosa. Oh, my God.
Go ahead.
They meet on September 9th. I can smell the chocolate. Thank you.
Okay, I'll take... I brought chocolate for everybody today, partly in celebration of our birthday. This is our first year as the reconstituted commission. We started a year ago, August, and so I thought we needed to remember Mike and have some chocolate. So I'll pass it here, and we'll pass it on down. But happy birthday to us.
Yay. Thank you.
I was going to make cookies, but I didn't get to it. Okay, moving along. Randall?
Windsor had a lab meeting about a week after the last commission meeting. The summer reading program is going great guns. We have lots of adult readers this year. There's programs Tuesday afternoon for the kids. They're always like totally filled up the room. It's like the fire marshal will get on our case about it. We had Legos last Saturday, which is pretty popular. Now, since Paul Gill isn't here, Healdsburg is having their book sale this coming weekend for Healdsburg. So that's it for me.
Diane?
So my library is Sonoma Valley, and our lab meets at the same on the same day and roughly at the same time as the Friends. And although I wasn't there, the meeting was held on July 9th while I was on vacation. I thought I would just take this opportunity to say how well the change has worked for us to have an overlap between the Friends meeting and the lab meeting. So we start they start the Friends at 3, and the Friends meeting goes from 3 to 3:45, And then from 3:45 until 4:15 or so, we have the meat of like my report and the city council member or the mayor's report. So all the key business is handled at the tail end of the Friends meeting and or the beginning of the lab meeting. I don't know if others are doing it that way. It's a recent change that we made that's been a good one, a positive one, so that people who are on the Friends can hear what's going on with the lab and vice versa. So our next meeting is, I believe, on the 13th of August, and it starts at 3:45.
Thank you. Barbara?
Just adding on a little bit to what Hillary already said about Runner Park Catotti, we have the lab / the Friends have done 4 outreach sessions at our farmers market, 2 on Sundays and 2 on Fridays. We've kind of taken a break for the last few weeks, and mostly because of difficulty getting volunteers to actually work that table. And the other day, Jake and I went out to Copperfields and restocked the books, and so we will, and Kathy DeWeese also notified us that she had a nice box of children's books for us. So we will be hoping to do 1 at least, or possibly 2 more farmers markets this summer. I guess the only other thing I would say is that I won't be able to be here at the September meeting because my 50th high school reunion is the same weekend. So anyway, sorry. But thank you, Tim, for our birthday present. I mean, our birthday.
Linda, do you have other? Okay. Petaluma Lab met. We started a discussion about the purpose of labs, which was interesting. It's interesting to see the changes that are occurring in Petaluma with new staff, different perspectives. We had a notice from Nick about moving things around and changing the look of the library, which is fun to see. We have an anonymous donor who's giving us Shakespeare, and that'll be, I believe, in November, I think. And they're also gearing up for yet another Lumicon with the partnership with the high schools. I was lucky enough to visit 2 libraries in Marin County during this week. And I think several things impressed me. First of all, the Carnegie Library in San Anselmo is beautiful. But secondly, it's right in your face. You can't go into the library without being thanked for voting for the initiatives. In Larkspur, when you walk in the door, there's a big sign that says, "We are now open more hours because of you." And in San Anselmo. In Larkspur, there are pamphlets with updates on what's happening with it. There are forms to fill out for the people who are exempt from the parcel tax. There are forms asking for input for library improvement. It really was impressive to me to see the interaction with the public, especially in regards to the election. Is there anything else people would like to add? All right, moving on to the commission committee reports, starting with the Directors Evaluation Committee.
The Directors Evaluation Committee met this afternoon. No action was taken. However, I would like to bring to your attention that we'd like to schedule 3 closed session meetings with the full commission. I propose that those be September, December, and April in the coming year so that we have time to check in.
Okay. Go ahead.
Clarification, so you're suggesting the next September, our next meeting? To have a closed session at what time?
Yes, that's correct. What we were thinking is 5 to 6 might work for all 3 of those meetings.
Huh?
Titan, no rambling.
Okay, I'll make sure I don't ramble.
I know I won't ramble either. All right. Any other questions about the Director's Evaluation? All right. Moving on to the Finance Committee report.
Yes, the Finance Committee met on July 20th in the conference room at Central Library. In attendance were Commissioners Whistler, Foxen, Grill, and Mckenzie, and CFO Neiman. Director Lear was on vacation. We discussed requesting and reviewing a PERS report to consider and be aware of long-term PERS liabilities. This request was initiated by my viewing of a Roanoke Park City Council meeting during which the Roanoke Park City Manager made a presentation about PERS to the City Council. And I thought it was really interesting and could be helpful to us. With the audit coming up and many other priorities on the list, CFO Neiman suggested that October would be a better month to look at this. So in October, our CFO will make a PERS presentation to the Finance Committee. We also discussed a revised gift policy, which is on the consent calendar here tonight. We felt that this policy was well drafted by staff, and it has now been discussed and tweaked twice by the Finance Committee. The policy addresses a major concern regarding gifts by stating that, quote, the library will make every effort to accommodate the wishes of the donor when making use of donated funds, unquote. Finally, we reviewed the monthly financials, and we were happily surprised to find a larger year-end surplus than had been predicted due to more tax revenue coming in June than had been expected. CFO Neiman will present the figures tonight in his report. The Finance Committee will continue to hold its regular meetings on the third Monday of each month at 3 p.m. in Central Library. Members of the public are, of course, invited and requested to come around to the back door off the alley if they would like to come and hear any of these meetings. And in August, we are going to discuss the sustainability circles that Commissioner Foxen brought up this evening. We have some other issues to talk about, and we will also be electing a chair and a vice chair of the committee for the coming year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think I'll ask if there is any public comment about this at the end of all the reports. Public Relations Committee, do we have, David's not here, so they haven't had a meeting, and neither has the Revenue Committee. All right. Any other questions from commissioners regarding these reports? Any comments from the public regarding these reports? All right. Moving along to the approval of the minutes. I do have one adjustment to the minutes. It's on page 1. And it's item 3, line 24-25, about public appearances. There were 3 regarding Monday hours. I would like to amend and add the words regarding Monday hours and the possibility of the Board of Supervisor and city support. That was really the issue. It wasn't entirely Monday hours. Okay, any other adjustments to the minutes?
Yes. On page 3 of the minutes, the item 12.3, Commissioner Mckenzie offered details about the procedure for that was on commission reimbursement and recommended adding more flexibility to the travel reimbursement. That wasn't exactly what we did. What we really talked about was a separation between travel expenses, actual travel expenses being reimbursed, and professional development, which is capped separately at $500 per year. So, yeah, line number 106, I think, on page 3. Commissioner Mckenzie offered details about the procedure and recommended, the policy recommends a separation between travel expense reimbursement for actual costs incurred and professional development, which is separately capped at $500 per year.
Did you get that? Okay. Any other additions or change or amendments to the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Are
One
there any
abstention.
people who has to abstain? Okay, abstention. All right. Moving along to the consent calendar, I will press coverage. Anything in particular, Rebecca, that you haven't sent to us? Okay. Consent calendar, I will remind commissioners that items on... Oh, did you have something?
Well, under communications, may we still talk about that?
Okay, correspondence and press coverage?
Oh, are we there yet? What did you just ask Rebecca? I'm sorry.
I asked her if there was any added information on correspondence and press coverage.
Okay, so.
Item 7 on the agenda.
Okay, good, okay, I'm not lost, okay. I just saw these this afternoon. We got an email from Rebecca with these items on it. And I'm wondering, like how we bring these up. One of them was a very interesting letter. It was an email request about being open on the Mondays being open on the Saturdays of holiday weekends. And will we talk about that when we talk about the holiday calendar? Is that the time to talk about that one?
It's the time to talk about it. I don't know what we can do about it, but it's the time to talk about it, yes.
Okay. And the other two things, well, never mind about the other two things. Thank you.
All right. Now, moving on to the consent calendar. I'll remind the commissioners that any item on the consent calendar can be removed to further discussion. If not, we just basically approve these items and move on. Does any commissioner request an item removed? Yes.
I would like to make a comment about, so I suppose I will briefly request to remove the item 8.4, which is the compensation implementation policy.
All right. Okay, so that being said, shall we move ahead and discuss that now?
Maybe we should ask for a vote for all the rest of the consent calendar.
Well, we don't need to vote. We can just approve of the rest of the consent calendar. All right?
I unfortunately also need to ask that the 8.3 Commissioner Reimbursement Procedure be pulled for just a couple of quick comments.
Okay. So now we have 8.1 and 8.2 on the consent calendar. Not having those removed, let's move on. Those are approved. So we're approving the maintenance for Serious Dynex and the gift policy. Let's move on to 8.3, the approved commission reimbursement procedure. Okay.
Okay, so a couple of little things on that. We didn't actually see this full draft at the Finance Committee, or I would have caught it, I think. There was third section down, reimbursable professional development expenses, fees for professional organization membership, expenses related to attendance at library-related conference, seminar class, entry fees, blah, blah, blah. And that is allocated for professional development is $500 per commissioner per year. It needs to be added, the per year. And then on the next...
Well, it says the annual amount allocated for professional development.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Scratch that.
Okay.
Hello, Barbara. The next line, request for reimbursement of expenses should be submitted with a reimbursement form and all applicable receipts. And that's all. Just a minor change.
Okay. Any other comments about that? We will then need to have a motion to adopt that amended policy since it's no longer on the...
So moved.
Questions?
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions from the commission? Any public comment regarding this item? All right. I'm ready to call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There being none, we'll move on to the compensation item 8.4. Go ahead.
Thank you. So having not been here at the last meeting, I didn't want to take up too much time with the discussion. However, I won't be voting in favor of this, and not knowing what how the other votes stack up, I just want to make sure if there were other people that would join me, that they would have an opportunity, and had I not pulled it, it wouldn't have been able to happen like that. So that's why I pulled it. And just by way of explanation for why I won't be supporting this, a few overarching things for me are, and I know I share this with many of you, it's just a steadfast commitment to getting the hours restored. And I think this moves us away from that, even albeit by maybe $100,000 or $200,000 initially. I can't support it for that reason. I would like to see every effort we have to be made towards restoring hours for the public. The second thing is I'm not convinced of what problem we're trying to solve. We're incurring additional ongoing expense by increasing some of these positions, the compensation for some of the positions, and I'm not sure why. If the goal is to get in line with the market, then we should be getting in line with the market on all positions, and not just moving the positions that are, in terms of the comps, underpaid compared to other positions. We should be moving and reconciling the ones that are over as well. And I recognize that that's not a popular thing to do, but in the spirit of what the intention is, if the intention is to get in line with market, which I don't agree with that either, because I think there are lots of reasons why people work at different places, and not everybody pays the same amount, and not everybody has the same benefits and the same culture and the same working conditions. So all that said, overall, this moves us away from getting closer to restoring hours, because it's increasing our ongoing expenses, and I'm not convinced of what problem it's solving. And while I do recognize that perhaps in the IT area we've had some challenges filling positions, and that's a segment of the economy and the job market that's highly competitive, I am not going to support this for the reasons that I just stated. I'm not seeing what problem we're going to solve. It's all well and good that somebody can come in and do a compensation study, but that's not, for me, that's not a compelling reason to do it.
Okay.
So I just wanted to offer my fellow commissioners my explanation for the no vote on this item.
Very good. Any other comments? Does we have a...
When's the last time the staff got a raise?
This year.
We had a 1.5% COLA effective July 12th as part of it.
Before that.
So before that, in 2008.
And what is the cost of living?
Right now for Sonoma County, it's running between 2 to 2.5%.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other... Let's have a motion to approve this, approve the implementation of the comp study. Yes.
I have a sort of procedural question, Tim. So we have been taking votes on, we took a vote on item 8.3. It sounds like we're going to take, you're looking for a vote on 8.4, but I don't recall us taking a vote on 8.1 and 2.
8.1 and 2 were on the consent calendar, so we don't vote, we just approve those.
But aren't they all on the consent calendar?
No, these two items have been removed from the consent calendar.
But shouldn't we have taken a vote then on the consent calendar? Yeah.
The consent calendar is declared approved by the chair, and since you and Commissioner Mckenzie requested that these two items be removed to the regular agenda, they go to a motion and a vote.
Yep. I actually brought this up the last time. It's my understanding that consent calendar does need to go to a vote also, so maybe we could research that for the next meeting. So, because I think even if you don't pull anything off, the consent calendar itself needs to have a motion for approval.
My history has been that it hasn't, but we'll check it.
Thanks.
And if it would make you more satisfied, we could take a vote on the consent calendar.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed implementation of the compensation study.
Second.
All right. Is there any more comments from commissioners? Any comments from the public regarding the approval of the compensation study? All right. There being none, call for the question. All those in favor of approving the comp study?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, any abstentions? All right, it has been approved with one no vote. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the election of chair and vice chair. Our bylaws call for the election to be held in August. I would first like to ask if there is anyone serving currently on the commission who would like to volunteer to be chair. That being said, are there any anybody who would like to nominate someone?
I would like to nominate Tim May for another year. Yeah. I think a 2 years as we get going with this new commission is, a good thing.
Thank you.
Use your experience. You've done a great job, and I would like to nominate you again.
And I'll second.
All right. So there's a one nomination. Are there any other nominations on the floor available for? All right. All those in favor of Tim May being chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay. Let's move on to the vice chair. Thank you very much. Is there anybody on the commission currently who would like to be nominated to be vice chair? All right. I think there's a nomination.
I nominate Helena Whistler.
Nomination is for Helena Whistler. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? Anyone? Go ahead. Anybody?
I think, again, that we have a strong team from the prior commission. It's wonderful you two work together and bring all your collective knowledge. And I think another year with you two in the driver's seat is, a good thing for the commission and the library.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
Yeah, I, as a new commissioner, I'm just beginning to feel like I have my feet on the ground. And I would suspect that other people feel similar to that. So I would very much like to see this continue at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. All right, all those in favor of Helena Whistler being vice chair?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, you are vice chair.
Thank you.
All right, that item went quickly. Moving on. The next items are discussion items. We'll start with the director's verbal report.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'll just highlight a few things that are in my management report for tonight. I did send you last week an update on the strategic plan. So that's a draft of where that document is now. And it's my intention to get that wrapped up and to you for discussion in September and then hopefully adoption in October. So that's where we're at with that. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, but I did want to get that update to you last week. The work on a temporary Rosalind, as you can see in the management report, continues to move along. You all had budgeted $90,000 for this project this year. The Library Foundation has also become very involved in fundraising, and they're doing fundraising as well for that project that would fund materials and classes and events for the site.
Brett, just excuse me for a minute. Are you having trouble hearing out there?
Can't hear me? Okay.
Is Mike around?
Is this better?
Better.
A little.
Yeah,
okay. And then the county and the Community Development Council may also have some funds to contribute to the site, as well as getting what it is it's that what had been a furniture store that sits next to the Dollar Tree on Sebastopol Road. So they've made that site available. The library will be invited in. It looks like they also would like to see the Boys and Girls Club in there. So it looks like we'd be working with a footprint of about 1,200 square feet. And right now, the anticipated opening date would be November 1st. I think that's about the earliest that we could order tables and chairs and furniture and get the computers set up and get the books ordered and that. So that's the timeline as it is right now. Any questions on that?
Lots. Okay.
Yes, I had a question. We were budgeting our money for books and computers, And then I understood the kind of foundation was kind of interested in funding the books and computers. And so how are we going to deal with the staffing part of that?
You know, initially, when Ken and I were, meeting with the CDC and that, there was talks about the Community Development Council going to the county for some project funds that would flow through the CDC, and then the CDC would fund the extra help staffing. That is the piece that I'm currently trying to nail down. What can the foundation do? Who will buy the books, who will buy the computers, who will fund the staff, and who will fund the equipment. So we've really got 3 funding streams. And the one that needs to be nailed down is which will do the staffing piece, because that's something that initially the library was not going to fund.
So I just have a question about the square footage, because in the written report it says 2,500 square feet would be the footprint. And
I think it's just how, when you go into the building, it's what's the total square footage, Kim? Yeah, it's a big retail space, so it's about 15,000 total. Right. So what did I say in the report, 2,500? Yeah, it's really how much we want and how much we think we can, occupy with the books and chairs. And I think we also have to, I think both us and the Boys and Girls Club both have interest in the front space. So there's a little negotiation around, I think, where we're going to be located in the building too, because up towards the front there's windows and sunlight and that, and towards the back it's a little more dark and isolated. The other thing I want to mention is
I have another question about that. Is it, partitioned off? Will it be lockable? Is it?
There's a back area that has a lockable door. So there's things that we could, if we had laptops or something that we brought out during the day, there's a lockable secure space in the back that we could put some things at night. I've also asked questions of the CDC around security, and it sounds like they're going to have security personnel that are on site throughout the day. As far as just designing the space, my thought is to get some type of partitions that at least set off what is the library space, but it's not going to be a highly secure area.
Okay. Other questions? Oh, go ahead. I interrupted.
Okay. The RFP process, we've fallen about 2 weeks behind in that, but we're wrapping that up, and we hope to have a candidate selected in the next few days. So as long as we keep on that path, we'll be about 2 weeks behind where we were initially, but I continue to work on that. And then I just wanted to mention with the fires in Lake County, it occurred to me yesterday to talk to Christopher Beach, the director up there, and just kind of see how they're doing. So, he said at this point, the fires aren't affecting the libraries or its services, but they have sent some staff to work the Emergency Operations Center. And if they continue to do that and send more staff to the Emergency Operations Center, then they might have a staffing issue. So really what I've asked them to do is just keep in touch with me, and we can see what support we can offer here from SCL to help them out if needed.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Any more further questions from commissioners? All right. Moving on to the rest of the management report. I had several questions, which I tend to, but any other questions here from the management report? I have one. I don't know. Who? Did somebody?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, that's it doesn't have to be first. Under budget and finance, bringing new processes and procedures into the department will help make the business operations of the library system more efficient. I'm wondering where those processes are now, that they're not.
They're pretty much complete. We're always changing things as we move forward. And we just recently hired a new payroll person, and hopefully in the next month we'll be hiring a new accounting coordinator in the area also. So with new people coming into any department, we hope we can make processes more efficient and better for everybody. So the processes and the putting them down in writing are all taken care of and ready for the auditor. But I will never say that we can't get better at things. So that's an ongoing process.
So these weren't processes that were things that were done by the county, for example, that we're bringing in-house?
No.
So bringing the new processes and procedures into the department, I guess I just misunderstood.
Just with a new accounting system, new people, making things more efficient. And,
okay.
Just kind of moving forward.
In that same section, I also wanted to comment that I'm really delighted that the branch managers and staff were going to be working on the maintenance in the building of the buildings, the maintenance of the buildings and grounds throughout the library system. I think that's important.
If I can understand what you just said, when Will comes and speaks to us next time, he's not going to talk about the procedures not being done?
Correct.
Okay. I just want to be sure that that's been taken care of.
Yep.
All right. Other comments or questions on the management report? I have a question about the laptop lab. I'd like a little more information about what that's all about.
So we've been working on getting a laptop lab that's got 12 Windows 7 laptops with Microsoft Office suite on them that we're going to be shipping out to the libraries to do classes. We don't really have a full-on lab per se, but we can actually bring the technology to them. For instance, the first ones are going to be in Petaluma and then Sebastopol for the path to college pathways, I think is what it's called, applying to schools, writing college essays. And so we'll be setting up on week to 2 week stints at a location that we can send these laptops to your libraries, and then you can schedule, or your staff there can schedule classes to be taught to the public and also do staff training as well.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool. Yes, I'm very excited, if you can't tell.
Yeah.
Thank you. So what's different about this, Mike, than just the regular stations that we have at the library now?
These ones, we're not taking away from any of the public internet stations that are in there. These are actual, they can be taken into a conference room or the forum room. They have long life batteries so they can set up and use the public Wi-Fi to do classes in addition to the computers that we currently have.
Doing classes like online classes?
Theoretically, yes. So like they'll be working with doing their college essays, so each person will have a laptop to do that. They'll be able to get to college applications online. Down the road, perhaps, we'll have resume building and also actually applying for jobs. There's possibilities for like coming in and getting tutorials on whatever I or you might want to learn as well.
So it just expands the number of workstations, basically.
Yeah, it's giving us more flexibility to have more of a true classroom setting that we don't currently have space for with the fixed machines. Okay. Kind of like what Rebecca has been doing with the Minecraft. We're actually going to be able to have tailored, structured classes, which over time staff will be building curricula for.
I mean, the backstory is right now none of our buildings have computer labs at all, so this is a way for us to offer classes and workshops for those to build up their computers.
And visiting libraries, a lot of them do have computer labs.
So, quick question. Who teaches these classes? I mean, is it a variety of different...
It's going to be a variety of people. So there's going to be librarians that are going to be teaching. We might bring in instructors like we do with our programs as it is now, a mix of, when we might just have library staff, not necessarily librarians down the road even. So it's really an ongoing developing process.
And did we get a grant for those? I'm sorry. Did we get a grant for those the computers?
No, it was built into our budget this last year.
Our budget. Okay.
So what's the logistics on this? Is this something that you personally deliver in your car, or what?
It's not going to be on my motorcycle. So we've been working with the group, or I've been working with the group of librarians, Jamie Anderson included, who oversees delivery. So we have a lockable mobile case that holds 12 laptops that's going to be using the delivery system to get to the branches, and we're working out a schedule for when you can get it with a built-in buffer so it can come back in to the IT shop so that we can tune them up, install any software that we might need, and then get it out to the next class on a timely basis.
And this is a great idea, and of course I've been supporting something like this for a while. And when does every library get their own laptops and labs like that? But it's kind of a loaded question, I'm sorry.
It is a bit of a loaded question. However, I will say that part of this whole process and part of why it's taken us a little longer to roll these out for use is we're building up a success matrix so that we can actually via surveys or surveys is going to be a big part of that, questionnaires, etc., statistics for attendance, etc., build up the success thereof this lab. Now, with the success of, you prove the need, and then you can bring more down the road, such as perhaps maybe one that has tablets or other devices and have more flexibility as we move forward. Kind of gets into what I'm going to talk about in a few minutes.
Great.
Hillary? No, I was going to say, I forgot on my announcements. I attended Minecraft Lab this week.
I heard that, yeah.
And many things impressed me. One of the things that didn't was the age of those computers. It'd be nice to
Yes, and that's also going to be, that was a grant that Rebecca got, a very successful one. And so as we're moving forward, Minecraft will be one of the things that can be used for these things. And
it was just astounding to see this room full of young people excited and having a home where they could change the flash. I mean, I loved it. I also know that there's a whole heck of a lot I don't know, but about mods and so forth. But in any event, it was really quite an impressive event.
Good.
Thank you, Rebecca. All right, any other comments?
I just wanted to say, I had marked this also and had a little note, could we have a presentation about this? And since we have kind of a mini presentation from you, like maybe in 6 months or something, could you come back and give us kind of a full-blown thing with all the, the details and... Of
technology in the library or the lab?
Just the laptop lab project.
Sure. It's going to be... The process is going to be a 6-month as we're rolling it out, because we're taking it out, training the staff, and then they're going to be doing a class and then moving it on to the next one. But most certainly I can come, and by then we'll have some experience using it, and so that I'll be able to talk about the success of that.
Great. Thank you.
The 3D printers, I don't know whether it's actually in Petaluma yet, but
I believe that it is.
I'm going to class Wednesday night to learn how to. I've got some ideas I want to print.
Yeah, the children's librarian that I know in Petaluma was mentioning that it's going to be there this week.
Oh, you okay?
Yeah, I have ins.
You have due. Yes, several people do here. All right. My next question is not for Mike. I'm wondering about the nerd fighters. I don't know who can fill us in on the nerd fighters, but I am a nerd fighter myself to some degree, and I'm just wondering if, for those of you who don't know, it's John Green, and it's he's the Faults in Our Stars book that you need a Kleenex to read, and but I'm not. Does John Green know about this kind of thing going on?
I think Kathy would have been the best to field that one, and she's home with a sick kid, I think, tonight.
Okay, well, let's ask her, because I'm subscribed to John Green's Tumblr, and it would be really wonderful to see if he talked about the Sonoma County Library doing something like this.
Okay.
So it'd be cool to know if he's doing that. The other thing I wanted to comment on about is the Books on Wheels program, and I am really pleased that it is happening, that it happened, and whatever. But again, I want to mention, as I understand it, it was a grant that's helping to make that happen, and the grant's almost done. And related to that is, if this were to happen, it would be an added expense beyond the grant if we were to continue it, right? Okay.
So Matthew, this was a grant initiated by the public forum held at the Sebastopol Library, and the Sebastopol lab fell in love with the idea and asked the branch manager to pursue. Is that right so far?
Yes.
Right. So he did very successfully and received a grant for $12,000. And that paid for substitute time so that he can have time to plan. And some materials, I think he bought large type books and the books on CD and other materials or other books, and then some supply items like tote bags. So that was the project very successfully, and then it is ended. Okay. Now, as Matthew reports that the feasibility to expand this program is still under investigation. Okay. But what he's done through this grant project is that he's created a template. So if any branch wants to do this program, they don't need to spend that time that Matthew had to spend to plan it out. It is all there to follow. So yes, the funding would be an issue, but there won't be that 6,000 more of money, 7,000 or so money to get the substitute to plan this program. So that'll be just the materials and some tote bags and lots of volunteer help.
Yeah, because I'm concerned about, I think it's wonderful. Mm-hmm. Start there. But I don't want to add more work to staff to make this happen.
Agreed. I think that Matthew had planned it very well. Most of the work was done by him, creating the template, and the actual physical work was a partnership with the Meals on Wheels people, the volunteers who have been fingerprinted and the background checked. So, and the library staff's work was to fill the holes and put the materials in the bags. And the Meals on Wheels drivers would come and pick the bag up, and then they would bring the bag to the library. And so filling the holes is a part of the library function. When you requested the material, we find the books that you requested. It's all the same. And so.
Okay, great. Oh, good.
Okay.
My concern was, I thought, again, a fantastic idea. I love the idea. And I didn't realize, I was wondering about this $12,000 cost, and Keo did a good job of explaining that a lot of the money went staff costs to develop the template. But it looks like 10 participants, and so that's not very many people.
It's not cost effective.
For $12,000 grant. And, I'm sure other people can use the large type books, and the other patrons will be able to, customers, whatever we're calling our library visitors, will be able to use these materials, but it's very expensive for not very many people. And I think if somebody else, other branches get involved in this, I hope we can develop this to a much greater extent.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you. Any other? I'd like to call. By the way, I like to call these things out just because so much good is happening. And if it's only on the print, we don't get a chance to notice it. But I'm happy about Lucky Days and the idea that perhaps I can walk in and find a book that I don't have to wait so long for. So thank you for Lucky Days. I also was really pleased to learn about the DVD cleaner. I hadn't heard about that. So thank you. Go ahead. Paul, why don't we go with Paul?
I'm interested who went to Rivertown Revival. Is there anybody on staff here that went down to Rivertown Revival? It says here that the Books on Wheels Services and Petaluma staff participate in the Rivertown Revival. Maybe it was just the peddling in the library. But was there any report on that at all? I want to know. There was 9,000 people that came to Rivertown, so it was a good way to expose the library. But I didn't hear anything about it.
But I don't have feedback at this point.
Well, maybe I'd like to see that at some point. I don't know if I guess I can call the pedal in the library.
Yeah, we'll get that for you.
Okay. Barbara?
Yes, on this report, I also wanted to comment on the collection development and materials management report. And I love to see numbers like this that talks about our circulation, that we are seeing a fall off in circulation, an increase in the downloadables, but still overall a net decrease. And anyway, I appreciate this report, and I also am really, really glad that we've adjusted the materials budget to attempt to provide more popular materials for the patrons and reduce wait time for holds, because that's certainly what I hear, is that, I'm 134th on the list. And so anyway, I know we want to have a very complex and deep collection, but I think it's really important to get the popular ones out, and I'm glad to see that on there. And here comes David.
Thank you. I know you didn't ask me a question, but I want to answer it anyway. I had a phone call the day before the release of the new Harper Lee novel, and it was from the Press Democrat, and the question was, is the library by any chance going to get any copies of this new Harper Lee book? And it sort of took me aback, and I realized that maybe we've done too good a job of saying how bad off we are. And people don't realize that we still buy new books. This was a Press Democrat reporter who didn't know that we might actually be able to afford to buy a couple copies of the new Harper Lee. So we're buying 100 and some copies of the new Harper Lee. And there are copies, on Lucky Day sort of program, and there are copies that you can put on hold, and there are copies in Spanish, and there's ebooks, and there's audiobooks, and, every which way, this book, as with most new books. So, hello, world. We buy books. That's what we do all the time, week over week. New books are available. So I hope that you, in talking to your friend about, the long wait or, why would I bother? I know Linda expressed something similar to me from a family member. There's a consciousness out there that we are in tough financial straits, and we still fulfill our core mission of providing current materials to the public. I just wanted to say that, even though you didn't ask.
No, that's exactly what, and that's why I really appreciate the numbers that you gave us, and again, the fact that we are addressing also the high need for these popular materials. Thank you.
And I'm also happy that I can walk into a library and find a book on a man who illustrated reviews of Broadway plays. And it's like, it's not, a lot of people aren't going to be interested in that one, but I am. And so it's really wonderful, the breadth, too. Thank you. Pardon me?
The new Harper Lee book, is it really worth all?
Well, we're not going to do a review of the Harper Lee book. I've heard mixed reviews. All right, moving right along to the monthly management status, performance management status report. Any comments, Patrick? Patrick, would you also be sure to speak into the mic? I've got new hearing aids and I can hear directly from the mic. Yeah, it's really cool.
I don't really have anything to comment other than the changes that you've seen on there basically are relatively insignificant. I mean, it reflects just a slight change in overall numbers from month to month. Understand also that there is basically a 2-week difference between this report and the other report because of deadlines moved up and so forth. So we're basically at status quo right now is what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. Other comments about this? All right. Moving along to the monthly financial report. Do you want to? Oh, there he is. Okay, Ken.
Hi. Well, we got through June and getting ready for the auditors, as we talked about before. And as Commissioner Mckenzie said, had a little bit of a surprise. We ended up with $1.7 million surplus for the year. While it was expected to be $1 million or a little over, it wasn't expected to be that much. The majority of the difference was, well, the expenses were a little lower than I thought they would be, but the biggest thing was we got about $430,000 more in tax revenue than we had anticipated. So that added to the surplus. And during the month of June, we were credited by the county for just a little under $1 million worth in tax revenue. So what that does is, from my calculations, and I've got to call into the county just to confirm this, but I think that will increase our revenue for this fiscal year by approximately $265,000. And so we'll be discussing that in the upcoming Finance Committee meetings to look at things that we may be able to use that money for.
Questions or comments? Good.
About the report in general?
No, about the report in general. But is yours about the surplus?
Mine's about the report in general.
Okay, good. So let's start with Barbara.
Under purchasing, the PG&E, $70,510 for May and June. And I just wanted to comment that yesterday in the Press Democrat reported that City of Windsor, when they switched to Sonoma Clean Power, they expected to save $1,000 a month in the city, and instead they're saving $8,000 a month in the utility. So I would anticipate that we would be seeing some pretty significant savings on our PG&E bill in the future, and I think I've brought this up a few times, but maybe at some point in time we can either look at that at the Finance Committee meeting, or you can make a presentation to us about hopefully how much we're saving.
Sure.
Thank you.
And the reason that it's so high, the utility bills run a bit behind. For instance, we get June's bill later in July, so we have to close out the month. And the good thing about year end is they leave the books open longer so we can get everything in, and so that's why it was kind of a double up. We got everything in.
Oh, thank you. So I have a question on page 36 of our packet, and that's the, Ken, it's on just the monthly financial report. And I'm just looking at the first line item under expenses, salaries, and benefits. It looks like from June of last year, we went from 11 million, almost even, to 11.7 this year. So we had an increase of about 700,000 on salaries and benefits from last year to this year. And I was just wondering, I believe earlier was stated that there's been no salary increases for a number of years. So why is it that went up by so much money if there weren't any raises?
I think there was a COLA about this time last year. But what it also reflects is an increase, a steep increase in the PERS percentage, which keeps going up. That also, there's an increase in healthcare benefits and retiree benefits. So, but one of the biggest things there is it also includes $600,000 deposit to the OPEB trust.
So this number includes that OPEB?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes. Positive.
Okay. So the 11 to 11.7 includes the OPEB contribution and all the increases to the PERS and the health insurance.
Yes.
And then you said that there was, I thought I heard earlier that there hasn't been any salary increases since 2008.
Boy, I'm pretty sure
Didn't I
there
hear
was
that?
a COLA last year, wasn't there?
It was 2.5% COLA.
Okay. Yeah, it's 2.5% COLA last year.
So that's not 2008, that's last year.
Yes.
There haven't been one since 2008.
Prior to that, there wasn't.
Okay, so let me just back up for a second. So earlier, I'm just trying to understand these numbers. Earlier, I don't think the question was addressed to you, but one of the questions that came up was when was the last salary increase to staff? And I heard July of 2015, we had a 1.5%. I imagine that was negotiated in the labor contract. But then staff went on to say that and then when was the last increase was 2008. And now I'm hearing that there was actually one in 2014 of 2.5%.
Ken, can I answer? Sure. Perhaps I misunderstood the original question. What I heard was that we didn't want to know about, the recent COLAs. And just this month, we had a 1.5% COLA. In July of last year, we had a 2.5% COLA, which were per the current contract. Prior to that 2.5%, the last COLA that the library granted was back in 2008. The only other increases in salary that have happened in that intervening time are just the regular step increases, which employees may be eligible for.
So I guess it's fair to say then that in these numbers includes I guess through June would not include the most recent COLA, but it would include the COLA of 2.5% from the prior year, as well as any other step increases that have occurred along the way. So our employees have received their step increases and cost of living increases as well.
Yes, they've received each, and if they were eligible for a step increase in 2014, the COLA increase that was effective a couple weeks ago are not in these numbers. They'll be in this year's numbers.
Thank you.
Other questions about the financial report? Thank you, Ken. I think we can all think of ways to spend that $200,000 over and over. So, and thank you very much. Bye. Okay. I'd like to ask if there's any public comment on the management report at this particular, before we move on to the holiday calendar. Okay, let's move to the holiday calendar, item 10.3. Get there. This proposed calendar, before we start the discussion, I basically have a question. This is to go into effect as of the 31st of December this year, so we're basically 4 or 5 months away from its becoming effective. So I'm wondering, there was a question that came up and we asked for information about the cost for operating on the Sundays kind of in the middle of that holiday. So they would be closed Saturday, they would be open Sunday at Central, and still be closed Monday, is what the question that came out of last meeting. And that would cost an extra $1,800 per day, as talked about. Also, there is the question that Commissioner Mckenzie brought up regarding the letter about being open on Saturdays of holiday weekends. So, as we begin our discussion, there is no motion here. There will be future board action on it. So, let's hear what people are wondering about or thinking about. Linda.
Yeah. I'd ask you to think about that the MOU that covers these holidays sunsets June 30th, 2016, and they're asking us to approve a holiday schedule that is not covered by that MOU. And if the commissioners look at the holiday schedule as presented until June 30th, 2016, because the other ones are not included in the MOU as for the new cycle. So I'd ask you to consider that.
Would you?
I would make a motion. We're not making a motion. I would say to you that we are locked into the Saturdays beforehand and all this other stuff as per the MOU that exists right now until June 30th. After that, it can be a new MOU.
All right.
Also, I count 5 possible, not 4. Okay.
5 possible.
Sundays.
And any other?
5
possible Sundays.
Okay.
So essentially, there are 2 issues that we're discussing. One of them is now the third, the Sundays. The second is the Saturdays, which are in the MOU, or results of the MOU. And the third is what I'm hearing possibly is approving half a year and seeing how negotiations go, is what I'm hearing as a possibility. So there are 3 options there. Anybody else? Yes, Diane.
Well, I think it's important to consider the public on this too, and that half a year, it's helpful, but it's nice to have the calendar set, and then so that the calendar to the public is established, and then the MOU should follow that, not the reverse. And then I would like to see, I believe it fits into this conversation, but every Saturday where we have, for example, January 16th, where Martin Luther King Jr. B-Day is observed, same with like President's Day observed, those Saturdays, I think we should be open as a regularly fully functioning scheduled day that we would be open on Saturday.
Can I ask the question of when then do you think, if the employees are to be given that holiday and they're not, and Monday's closed, when do you think that a holiday should be given to the employees?
I'm not sure about that. I just know that I would like to see the days when if it's not a holiday and you're going to the library and you open the door and the door is locked, you're kind of scratching your head of why is this place closed? Today's not a holiday. And the rest of the world doesn't take different days for holiday. I mean, we all celebrate holidays on a certain day. We sort of agree to that.
Okay.
We can't. I think the public expects to have buildings open when it's not a holiday, and we need to work around that.
Barbara?
Well, I'm sure we have MOU issues, as Linda has brought up, about the Saturdays, and I'm sure there would be possibility maybe of using extra help. I don't know. But I did think that this was a good, this particular person that wrote, it's in our correspondence, Suzanne Grant, member of the public, who made the points that you're making about Saturdays. And an additional thing that she put in here, which I think is really true, it creates a very heavy workload for the staff. I know that in the libraries they're just, buried on the Tuesday after a 3-day closure with returns and stuff. So it's something else to consider. It's besides the public. I think it's an impact on the staff.
1 second. Brett, you wanted to?
Well, the only thing I wanted to clarify from, I guess, the administration perspective is the MOU doesn't mandate those Saturday closures. That's not in the MOU.
That's not.
Okay. So, okay.
I talked about this before, and that's that you could flex that holiday. Let the employees flex that holiday and take it for whatever they want to take it for. And that's how, for some, so that you could at least keep the libraries open on that Saturday.
That's the only way I can think of doing it too. If we were to undo it, we would give staff a floating holiday for having worked that Saturday, and then take it at their discretion. And then there'd be some cost in staff earning and taking that holiday, because we would have to hire some extra help staff to cover some of those times away.
But that way the people get their holiday and the public get access to the library on Saturday.
All right. Other comments? Any public comment? You have to come up there. Or you can go up.
So I'm Kim Popenook, and I'm a children's librarian, and I can address this issue as a staff member. I'm also president of the Library Chapter Union, so I can address the union question. What you see in this holiday closure schedule is what I call unintended consequences. Back when the libraries were closed on Mondays in 2011, a decision was made to move all public service staff to Tuesday through Saturday work schedules. So there were no staff scheduled to work on Mondays. Now you have administrative staff who work Monday through Friday. And so at the time the former director made this decision, maybe she didn't realize that you have Monday through Friday staff who can simply take Monday off as holiday pay, federally mandated holidays, but you have Tuesday through Saturday public service staff, and we can't be paid from a Monday unless we were scheduled to work. Ergo, since we're never scheduled to work on a Monday, we could never be paid our federal holidays. So this is actually a workaround. How do you close the libraries, make service staff work Tuesday through Saturday, but not be able to pay them a Monday holiday? So this is something that was hammered out, as I said, a workaround, some kind of compromise. You know, as a ordinary person, I conceivably could say, you could pay me for a Monday holiday if I don't work. I don't mind not coming in on a day I don't work and getting paid the holiday, but maybe that conflicts with other rules or regulations. And the union didn't mandate the MOU. This is an agreement, a contract between management and the union. And it could be changed. But there's another reason why libraries can't simply be open on Mondays. There used to be people who worked 7 days a week. I used to work a 3-week cycle. I'd work a Monday night, a Wednesday night, and a Saturday, Sunday on a rotation. There were many staff who worked schedules where we flowed over 7 days as a schedule. But once we went to Tuesday through Saturday, everything changed. Work schedules changed, hours changed. One of the things we did, since we were open and we're working every Saturday, is we upped programming on Saturdays. We probably offer more Saturday programming than we ever did before. Oh, am I out of 3 minutes? Okay, enough said.
Okay, thank you. So basically what I'm hearing, if I can summarize, and since we're not doing any motion, I'm hearing that we would like to have staff look at the calendar again and look at alternatives to allow us to see if we can be open on Saturdays and I'm glad that you gave me the phrase federally mandated holidays, while there is a way for the staff to get their federally mandated holidays until we are in such a place where we are open 6 days a week again. So is that clear what we're asking, Brett?
Yes, I mean, I guess, again, by doing that, I think we would largely come back with a dollar sign.
That's what I'm,
so,
yeah.
You know, if there's a strong feeling from the group that you want us to accomplish this, you know, articulating that I think it would be helpful. I mean, I can certainly run the numbers and say that, you know, if we were to give all of our staff floating holidays, this is what we would guess it would cost, but it'll still be up, I think, to hear from you all that there's a direction to open those Saturdays.
I think I think, now I'm going to ask for thumbs up, but I need to figure out how to articulate what I want the thumbs up on. I think what I'm hoping I can't make a decision whether I want you to do it till I know how much it's going to cost. Okay. But I think we would like to know the cost of possibly opening Saturdays and having floating holidays. And I think the cost involves not only the finances, I think there probably is a cost in scheduling and the added complexity in figuring out a schedule. If one of the staff members has decided to take this floating holiday, how do you arrange the staffing around that? So those are what I see. Paul?
It seems to me that this has been an ongoing subject for, I don't know, almost as long as I've been here. And I thought we had a pretty comprehensive report about opening on Mondays. And aren't we just, it seems, I'm feeling it's beginning to be a waste of time and an impact on the staff to keep doing these reports, because we keep coming up with the same solution that we just don't have the money. And I just think we could have staff time doing something more important. Sorry, we just keep going over and over this.
Well, it's a different issue in some degree.
Well, it is and it isn't.
Well, we have asked about this before, about the floating holiday time off, and I believe that the response generally has been, it's hard to schedule all of that. Yeah. You never know when somebody's going to take their time off. Right. But I don't know that we've pursued it to the point of really looking at it closely. Because I think that it has troubled the commission for a long time that we're closed on Saturday as well as Sunday and then Monday in these circumstances.
Right. Well, okay.
All right. Yeah.
I don't know if this is necessarily the time for it, but it would be nice to have this issue of federally mandated holidays has been stated a few times. I'm not sure what a federally mandated holiday is. Is there such thing as a federally mandated holiday?
I mean, I think Tim, there are federally recognized holidays, which if you were an employee of the federal government, yes, in most instances you would have it off, but it's entirely up to a private employer or any other public employer whether or not they're going to observe that holiday. Typically, a public agency does observe those holidays, but there's no mandate that you have to.
And there's nothing in the MOU that says we have to.
Right. It's just...
The MOU just says that there are a number of holidays that the library does recognize, and that, so...
Any suggestions on how we proceed with this from commissioners? Barbara?
Well, we talked about the Sundays last time, and then we have this nice report this time, which basically says it would be about $1,800 a day, and there's 4 potential Sundays. So I would like to have the same kind of report for the Saturdays. And I probably did this wrong, but I counted 7 Saturdays that were closed. 2 of them are Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, so those may not be ones that we would be talking about. So we're talking about for them 5 days, 5 Saturdays, and I think that's a reasonable compromise to look at, given the high demand from the public and so forth. We're not talking about opening on Mondays, we're talking about 5 Saturdays. So I would like to see a report come back to us in the same manner as the Sunday.
Are we going to talk about the Sunday, though? That's what we got this report on. Are we going to do anything with the Sundays? Maybe we should start there. Are we going to let that go? I overheard somebody say it would be too confusing to the public to be closed on Saturday, open on 3 Sundays or 5 Sundays, and then closed on Monday, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that, but I did remember that last time staff said that Sundays were a very, very busy day at Central. So I still like the idea of being open, and it seems relatively inexpensive, $1,800 a pop. For us to be open on some Sundays, these Sundays. So I would just like to know what the rest of the commission thinks of that, or if we're letting that go and moving on to Saturday.
I think it's all wrapped up in 3 separate questions, is what I hear. The first question is confusion, clarity needed regarding the employees getting holidays, and our position on the employees being given the holidays, and how we can make that happen. That's one point. The second is the Sundays. The third is the Saturdays, and also Linda's point about who knows what the next MOU is going to do about hours and so forth. So half a year. I'm a bit confused about how we proceed, except that I think the best thing to do. Let me think first. Give me a minute here to think. I don't know, but in each of these instances, it's an issue really of finance, essentially. So what I would think, because I think it's going to be impossible for us as a group of 9 tonight to come up with, here's what I want you to do. I would like to have the finance committee discuss the calendar and come up with proposals regarding the, pass some more candy around, please. Have the finance committee, since it's a financial issue, look at those 3 issues and let us know pretty much what, so that we have a specific option to vote on and discuss. And I'd like to have the option be around knowing what the cost is, and then we need to decide whether we want to do Sundays at X cost, and whether we want to figure out whether to be open on those Saturdays, and come back to us with a report on that. Okay, is that okay with the rest of the commission, if we do that? All right. Staff, do you understand where we're going with that? Okay. I need some chocolate. Okay, let's move on. Is there any public comment about the holiday calendar that we already haven't had? Okay, moving on to the commission schedule. And this is, again, our first discussion on this to give direction and thoughts. I think one of the things that I'll say from a sense of the past is that this is a flexible schedule. Oftentimes things happen during the year that make the calendar change a bit. Are there any questions or discussion regarding the commission calendar as presented for discussion?
Just at the April meeting, that we were going to have a closed session for the director evaluation probably needs to be rethought.
That's April 4th. It would be the all-day meeting. Other questions or comments?
The evaluation committee asked us for next September at 5, and then the other 2 days with their mouth working.
Which, depending on the outcome of our calendar, the April meeting, unless people would really like to extend that for a while, probably the April meeting will need to be moved either to March or maybe to May.
The April closed
session. Probably March. Full commission, probably March.
Okay.
So is it just the September and March, or the 2 days?
December.
And December. It's September, December, and March. All right. Barbara?
I'm fine with the dates. I like this a lot better than last year, which was seemed to me kind of garbled. We changed a lot of things. So this is pretty consistent with our first Monday of the month, except for the holidays. We still haven't talked about our meeting place, though.
You weren't on the balcony before the meeting opened.
I was not.
I was saying that in the budget we have re-looking at the forum room, correct?
Yeah, that's on staff's to-do list and I think Rebecca's done a lot of that already, costing out, and Mike too, what it would take to get central to where we could start hosting the meetings there. So it's a possibility to, as far as just to bring the commission back there or to have any meetings there. Is that? Yeah.
And timeline, ballpark, 6 months, 8 months?
I mean, I think we could hold, some meetings there. We could see what we need to get in place fairly quickly. The longer term is if we decide that we can fit the central meeting room for your meetings, then we would want to look at the lease we have here and when we potentially want to end that.
And a related topic is the recording of the meetings and...
Right, and as far as I know, you all kind of voluntarily chose to video record, so we'd want to decide if that's something we want to do going forward, or would audio recording be sufficient for your needs and the public's needs? But some of that can be considered as well.
Okay. The other item that I'd like to talk about on this is traditionally we had 2 all-day sessions, and this year we only had 1. And what had happened in the former meetings was one of them was related to goals and objectives for the year for the library, and the other was related to budget. And with the strategic plan, and that is our kind of driving direction, I think we may be okay with staying with 1 full day. But do any of the commissioners really feel like we need 2 full days of these planning meetings?
I think it was very efficient this year and worked out for 1 day.
Okay. All right.
And also I was thinking that could be something that we talk about at the retreat too.
Okay. Very good. All right. So basically we've except to the issue of where we meet, people are mostly happy with this calendar. Public comment?
Just a question. We'll change meeting spaces. You'll let us know like the first of the year or something maybe?
As far as holding all meetings at Central, is that the question? When you could start doing that?
Yeah.
I think I would take direction from you all if that's, to pick a target date, and then we can work to fulfill that as staff.
First of the year? If possible. If it's not possible, tell us. But it also is related to the issue of the whatever agreement we have here.
Rebecca, do you know when the lease here is, when it runs through?
It's already essentially expired, and we're just on
we're on a month-to-month?
Informal month
Okay.
to month. Yeah.
Okay.
But the other issue is the cost of recording and what wants to be done around that.
Okay.
Do you have a guesstimate timeline, Mike, for that, if we were to start now?
I don't at this point. We could certainly move back, but it does wrap around the whole video recording thing. If we did an audio recording, that would be a much quicker move. I need to talk to the people at C Media. That kind of fell off the wayside, and so I can make that a priority and get there. When I did speak to him, he seemed to think he could get it done, but then that fell off. He being Daedalus Howell, the CEO over there, the chief. So I will bring that back onto my priority list as far as getting that done.
I would really like us to look back to what was brought up about the compromise regarding the calendar. I think the decision to video record came from a history of mistrust about minutes, and it was an answer. And I really would love to know if there are other answers. It seems to me like we've had to bend in a lot of different ways to solve that problem, and perhaps it can be solved another way, particularly audio. But so at some point we do need to discuss this, because I think it's vital that the public has a chance to have input about what they want from us in regards to minutes and recording. So, so that would be a part of the process, is that we have a proposal of either video recording or audio recording or transcript recording or whatever to make a decision about. But again, it needs to be publicly discussed.
And I just want to, my recollection is that we started the recording part of it because the amount of staff time it took to do more detailed minutes seemed excessive. So that was one reason why we went to the video recording. Not so much that we didn't trust the minutes, I don't think.
I think that was, we can interpret the history. But
it was just time consuming for staff and to do we had much more detailed minutes back then.
Okay. So do you have an idea of where we're going with that? Is that enough? Any comments from Commission regarding that? Public comment? All right. Monthly staff presentation, the move to mobile. When I grew up, mobile was a gasoline.
Well, actually, I want to start off with a question for y'all. Does anybody know when the Motorola Brick came out? And if so, who had one?
The what?
Motorola Brick telephone. Remember in the older movies from the 80s and 90s? It was the big...
With the antenna?
The cordless.
The main Motorola Brick came out or what was commonly known as the Brick came in 1983. As far as mainstream mobile technology, it's only been about 25 years since the onset of that, which really goes to show how quickly things are changing at this point in time, which is what I'm going to talk about. Remember, as I'm setting up and talking at the same time, I was going to look for apartments in college, and my mom had one of those Motorola's. This was like 91, I think. And she's like, okay, we can use this, but it's $1 a minute to talk on it, so sparingly. And now, who doesn't have a cell phone with them at all times? 20 years later. Or a device in hand to do a talk like this. All right. I did print you out packets as well because I wanted to make sure you could see it. All right. Aww. That's my honeymoon. That's Portland, Multnomah, up by the falls. Gorgeous up there.
Looks like a librarian.
Yeah, they're some of you might recognize that person. All right, here we go. You know, for me, this is the children of my generation are the first generation in modern time, or ever, that really grow up with this attached to their hip. Anybody that has teenagers at home knows how infrequently they put these things down. You know, in libraries, we have to adapt to those changes. There was a meeting in late June at Aspen Institute of Ideas, I think is what it was called. Tony Marks, the CEO of the NYPL, said, libraries are the central institution of civil society with the largest reach for everyone. And that's really rings true, and he was using it as a rallying cry for what we as libraries can do for our communities. We're one of the few, if not only, place that's opened the doors to everybody for whatever needs that they might have as far as information. We come and we welcome them, whether they want to read a book, come in and learn about how to use a device. Things are really changing for us. 2002, I'm going to keep pointing at the screen, and I'll try to point it over here so you all can see as well. This is what our library website looked like. In May of 2002, we had 44,000 hits to that website and the catalog, which seems a lot. It was created and maintained by one person at that point, and it was designed around a desktop computer. Maybe a laptop, but basically it was all one screen size. It was hand-coded, so any changes that were made to that website were made by one person, and so it was slow to change. Mobile internet wasn't even really around at that point. If anybody of you have used the internet back then on a cell phone, trying to look at the web page on a screen that big, it was cumbersome at best. In fact, wireless as a service to the library hadn't even been introduced as a free service until 2004, which was a huge deal when it first came out for us. Jumping forward to May of this year, that same month, almost 180,000 visits to our website. Over 4 times as many people come and visited us. Nowadays, it's built on a content management system. What that does is it allows for a team of librarians on the digital branch, David, Rebecca, myself, amongst many others, can make changes, and that's why changes can happen so rapidly. You go to the website, you see the cool slides about things that are happening or new services we're providing at the library on a daily basis. And the best part, it's got logic built into it so it works on a variety of screen sizes. It's not just to a desktop computer because people don't just use desktop computers anymore. So looking back in time a little bit, going back to fiscal year 2008, physical foot traffic visits to the library doubled what we had. At this point, they're really lockstep. You can see that when we cut in hours, the drop between 11 and 12, and the spike in the mobile and the purple. Also keeping in mind another little tidbit for you, the iPad, it's only 5 years old. It's so much a part of what everybody does now, whether it be a MacBook Air, a Surface, an iPad, an Android. Everybody has a device, and really, that's only about 5 years ago since that really hit its stride. Speaking of devices, so this is fiscal year 13-14. At that point, our virtual traffic, a little under 22%, the rounding is a little where that cut this off. 78% was a desktop computer, whether that be a PC or a Mac. And 21, almost 22% was actually on a mobile device, which that seems pretty good. 1 year later, that jumps up another 5%. Now we have 27% and growing of people, such as these teenagers that I mentioned, are coming to our libraries on a variety of devices, not just computers anymore. People really are living mobile lives. We're all over and we want access to information where we are. This is actually a screenshot from my phone. I have my contacts on it. I have my weather, my news, my Netflix when I want to watch TV, camera, contacts, streaming. I even have access to a mobile app. This one's Boopsy is the name of it. We're looking at Anaheim Public Library's installation of that. So I can get access to my account, see what I have checked out, what I have on hold, any finds that I might have. I can search for a book. So fitting, I searched for Tomorrowland and I found a book that I want to look at, which I can go place a hold and go to the library and pick up. Or I can also download directly to my phone Diary of a Wimpy Kid that I can read wherever I may be. Even cooler, with Boopsy and a smartphone, you're actually walking around with a self-check in your pocket. Uses the camera scanner. You can actually walk up, you're already logged into your account, snap a photo, and you've checked out that book. Really neat product. That's not even talking about the streaming services we're looking at right now, Hoopla or Freego for listening to music, movies, etc. You know, we're kind of getting at libraries really a call to arms again that I mentioned from Tony Marks in the beginning. We need to step up and really keep up. People want a library without walls so that wherever they may be, we're with them for whatever searching they might have all the time, whether you're out and about or in your jams, drinking your coffee, you want to look for a book or read the news. You know, and when you do need assistance, you want to be able to come in and have library staff help you with our resources on their devices. And really, it's a point of service need. Wherever they are, we can help them, whether that be out in the stacks, email, at the desk. We want to be there for them. And then, as I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the digital lab, digital life skills are more and more important. Being able to fill out a job application, do a resume, a college application, etc. But of course, I don't want to forget about print materials, because David's right, we're always going to have books. And that's really a key. I love reading on all this tech that I have in front of me, but I have a book on my nightstand that I read every night before. Books are a part of what we do. We're wrapping up our strategic plan. Equitable service means a whole lot. We had technology and education as core concepts of the plan that we're working on, so that kids can come into the library. We can actually go out to the shelves with them, find the book, do reference with them, or if a group of people on a whole bunch of different devices come in and they want to use our print materials or have a class such as the lab again that I mentioned earlier, so that we can help them on whatever they may be. And then, this is really cool. This was an article I read when I was putting this together. Microsoft is actually doing $500,000 grants to startups that will help them define what they're going to do with their HoloLens project, which is a virtual reality device. So that we can actually do in the future, there's Iron Man or Minority Report or some movie where they're up on the screen with their hands just waving around, and they're actually doing things. That stuff's here now. Just today I read in the Wall Street Journal from our website, at home with my library card, about an article called Virtual Reality Isn't Just About Games. We're just at the beginning of this, and it's all going to get there. And we as a library need to be there with it.
Thank you. I see a comment at the end.
Does that mean we can have virtual commissioner meetings? Is that where we'll be sitting here from our home? Okay.
Maybe in the future.
We can. That's an idea. Okay, other comments, questions? Randall or Barbara?
Yeah, comments. First of all, I love having these educational sessions. I think this is fantastic. This is just all the kind of stuff that we want to know and that it's interesting to us. And, we all want to learn a lot more about the details of the library. So fantastic. Love this. Thank you for the introductory educational session. And when I first became commissioner, I thought, I got to start becoming a better user. And so I got a library card. And then I tried to renew a book on my phone, and I really had trouble. And so when you show us these cool pictures of this other system, this isn't stuff we can do. Is that correct? I mean, we don't have all of the good. Does our mobile stuff work as well?
We're getting there. We're actually in the process. One of the things that I'm working on this week as far as the mobile, a mobile app. Boopsy is one of the ones that we are most certainly looking at, and it's great. So hopefully this fall we will have something along those lines. As we know, the catalog, which is good for computers and tablets, it falls short using a screen size like your phone or mine, and that's why we're looking at these mobile aspects to improve that dramatically.
Because I just completely agree with you that nothing makes us look more like an anachronism than to not be totally, this is all available, it's out there, we need to be there. And lastly, my question, you had mentioned that library services need to keep up. Did technology tutorials, do we have those? I mean, could I search for a technology tutorial, or is that going to be part of the mobile lab?
It's something that we need to increase our footing on. Part of what's keeping up and giving equitable service to people using tech is we as library staff need to ramp up our own internal training program for technologies. Because as you said, or you alluded to, or maybe not, we represent the products that we provide the public. So all of us, and by extension, we all need to know how to use the things that we provide. And so we need to be ramping up our own training programs, and the lab's going to help with that so that as we roll new things out or as we get new products such as Boopsy, that our staff are comfortable in using them. And then as far as with Overdrive, for instance, there are tutorials on the Overdrive site as well.
There are? Okay.
And I'd be happy to show you that later.
Thank you.
Brett, I thought you had a comment?
No, I was just going to encourage Mike to say that there's every likelihood we're going to get that Boopsy product in the near future.
I am kind of being coy, but yes, Brett is 100% accurate.
The thing that I found is if when you log on from a pad or an iPhone, log into your account first, then try to put reserves and make things. Because
this is Boopsy is going to make things way better. You might notice a little Windows emblem on the screen there. And I do use a Windows phone, but Boopsy works with not only Android, not only iOS, it also works on Windows Phone. They're the only one that I've seen that is trying to be truly cross-platform agnostic, and so that people, whatever they may be using, and I'm in the minority, I'll admit, will be able to access it much easier. And you won't have to use those workarounds.
Okay. Questions, comments, other comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment? Okay. I wish there were some way I could keep you longer, but it looks like we're moving in towards the end of the meeting. We're now at lab appointments. There are no action items by resolution. So there is one. We don't have names for the youth. What? None? So we're just ignoring? Cut this item? Okay. So moving right along to the items to include in the commission notes. I would say the compensation.
Portable laptops, I think that's very interesting.
I think it's, yeah, fantastic. Other items? I don't know. We received a report on the technological future of the library, some phase like that. I think it's important. I think if the election of chair and vice chair, chair in charge of vice. All right. It is time to get done with the meeting, or I'm going to be falling off a cliff. All right. Anybody else that items to include? All right. I declare the meeting adjourned.